Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for a very interesting session. Would welcome and really hope that everyone is staying home and staying safe. And over to you, Sanket.
Hello, fellowpreneurs and hustlers. I'm Sanket S., founder at Volume Up, a platform that optimizes bottom line for spare capacity owners within the food industry and facilitates top of the pyramid brands to scale with negligible OPEX and CAPEX. As we draw curtains on the most dreaded financial year of our lives, let's take a moment to thank our teams for their heroic efforts. Contrary to popular belief, a startup can be quite a safe haven with the right team in place. On that note, let me welcome Parizad Zorabian and Jayesh Parekh for today's session on Thai Food Network. Ideally, both of them do not need any introduction, but I want to hog some more screen time. So I'll begin with introducing Jayesh, and then he will introduce Parizad and begin Q&A with her. We'll have audience Q&A towards the last 10 minutes of the session. So Jayesh is co-founder of Sony Entertainment, senior advisor at Jungle Ventures. He's on the board of Avishkar Funds. He's Thai Mumbai's board member, investor with IN, and on the board of Akhand Jyoti Eye Hospital. He's currently managing partner of Good Protein Fund and has recently authored and published his book, What Shall We Do With All This Money? Sir, on a lighter note, if you're still finding answers to what shall you do with all that money, you can park all that money with Volume Up until you get some more clarity. On that note, handing the floor to you, Jayesh.
Thank you so much, Sanket. We are taking applications for the use of money. So this is about utilization of wealth. So please, all are welcome. Yes, hi, good afternoon, friends. I have the honor to introduce Parizad. And Parizad is a Mumbai University gold medalist and a trained Western classical ballet dancer. And would you know it, an MBA from USA in marketing from City University of New York. So again, all very famous for being an actress. So having created a unique niche for herself as an actress in independent offbeat cinema, Parizad is now full-time director of her family business, Zorabian Chicken, which we will speak about in a minute. And Parizad works passionately with a team of young, driven members who take ownership in the brand and its values, making Zorabian a unique proposition in this large-scale commercial market. And importantly, Zorabian is known for its quality, integrity, and trust. And its success makes you believe in the power of doing things right. So welcome, Parizad. You know, all of these are nice words, but really what I personally would love to know, and I'm sure our friends here today who's listening would love to know a little bit insight into your journey, where you grew up and how you grew up and just some circumstances.
Thanks for that introduction, Jayesh. That's lovely. Thank you. So Parizad Zorabian, born to an amazing set of parents. My mom and dad, have been, just such, cheerleaders through my journey, kind of being liberal, being kind of brave parents, kind of making sure that, I've been given every opportunity and I've always been encouraged to pursue anything that I've ever wanted to. That's why you see a journey as varied as being an actor. So whilst I was a Bombay University gold medalist with the full intent of doing my MBA, which I did do, post my MBA, I was, sitting in, I did Lee Strasberg after my MBA. So, I was someone who, was fortunate enough to kind of have a stint as an actor in offbeat independent cinema for I did 13 odd films, so with a great set of people. And, I've had the opportunity of working with Zorabian for the last 12 years. And I came in at a time where the business was in a really, seeing a very, very challenging, trying time. We were deep in debt and there was a retail brand that was born out of that adversity. And it's been an amazing, incredible journey with growing a completely new segment for our business today, and Zorabian is in the top 3 in India, which is so incredible for us.
Wow. Thank you so much for giving us that insight. I think for those folks who may not know the background of Zorabian, maybe you can give us a little bit of background on Zorabian chicken and when it started and little
So
bit on it.
Zorabian's a 38-year-old brand that was started by my father. So I am a second-gen entrepreneur, and my father's whole purpose and vision was to kind of, my dad's predominantly into food, a self-made man completely. So started with a typical small Irani bakery, kind of, then had a small cafe, which then became a sizzler and Chinese joint. Then he had a catering unit. The one thing that was always kind of he wasn't happy with was the quality of chicken that, of course, at that point everyone purchased from a place called Crawford Market in Mumbai. And anyway, so his natural progression was to start a resort in Kamoli. He didn't get the NOC for that, and that kind of says, okay, I've got all this property, what the hell do I do? And that's when he collaborated with a poultry farmer, Dr. Merchant, and said, you know what, I'm going to put up a poultry farm because there's a paucity of good quality meat. And that's how Zorabian really started, with a vision of unmatchable quality, right, at an extremely competitive price. So that was always our brand offering. He was very clear. We went into a completely vertically integrated farm. So we kind of, have our parent birds, our hatcheries, our feed mills. We have our contract farmers. We farm with around 200 contract farmers today. We have our own processing units, and in Bombay and Pune, we handle our own distribution. So we have a large distribution network. And Pan India, of course, we work with like the best distributors that are in each city. So Zorabian's kind of taken a whole journey from the wholesale space into the retail space. Like I said earlier, born out of adversity. But today we do fresh chicken, we do a ready-to-eat range, we do fresh marinades, and the next thing that we're going to do in a big way is Zorabian Agro, which is like fresh vegetables and everything organic. And that is the natural progression the brand will also make, because I have a vegan brother who thinks also that is the future, right? So besides the chicken, now there's going to be a Zorabian Agro as well. So it's been amazing. My father's at the helm of affairs at 75, very active in the business. I had sales, marketing, distribution, and operations. I have a middle brother who handles Baba Zest, and which is a retail brand of food business that my father had started called Sharon. And my youngest brother, who's 8.5 years younger than me, runs the farm, and he handles all the contract farmers, every single thing. As far as growing the bird is in Shahzad's hand. So where there's the father in the middle, and there are the two siblings at the side, both extremely different, very, very, whilst I'm more growth driven and more, I want to conquer the world, Shahzad will do less, but do things perfectly. And it's a beautiful balance, because left in either of our hands, we won't be the company that we are today. I think his restraint and my, mad passion kind of finds a balance, because he wouldn't ever let us kind of do things that are out of our scale to compromise on quality, right? So it's good to have one greedy one and have one kind of very Buddha-like, Zen-like person.
Well, and so that leads me to the next piece, which is how easy and tough was it as a second generation entrepreneur, right? To join a family business and legacy, it's got its own legacy. You had a booming career as an actor. And then of course your dad being still the chief, I think, right? And then you're working with your siblings. So how does that equation work? But I think importantly, as a second generation entrepreneur, can you just give us some insight?
So, so I've been fortunate, right? I've grown up, seeing that we've been going to the farm as children. So, I've seen Dad go through every phase as he scaled up. I've seen Dad go through every high, every low. So there's a lot of respect that I've seen. So I didn't walk into a brand oblivious and clueless. I walked into the company knowing the legacy that we carry, only because over the years, I've kind of seen it firsthand at such a close quarter. So whilst I think it's incredible to inherit a legacy business, because especially if you have a really strong legacy of quality, integrity, trust, it kind of sets you up in a place where, you walk into a room and you command automatic respect because of the legacy your father has kind of built, to the values that he's built in the company, in terms of the product offerings that we have, in terms of how honest we are in our dealings, in how we walk the talk, in terms of our service. So it's great to inherit all of that. Of course, I also inherited, people who've seen me, general managers, with God's grace, they've been so loyal, but who've seen me as a child, and then they've seen me kind of, go the acting way. And then now coming back and kind of being their boss, I had to kind of work a little hard to, earn that respect. But it's been a journey. It's been a journey of, I think, which began with a lot of immaturity, because you come in thinking that you have the MBA, you're hugely successful and you know what you're doing. And you come in like a typically young person with these big ideas, and you want to, you think crashing down the old to create the new is the only way out. And I think my husband gave me the best piece of advice. He says, don't mess up what he already has created, create something entirely new. So when I began, Jayesh, I focused only on the retail and continued for the wholesale business to be run the way it was being run. And then kind of, obviously we need a whole new team for retail. And then, my effort, even to date right now, is to merge the two teams, the old and the new, where everyone respects each other, because the old guys aren't as up to date and as wild. You know what I'm saying? They're not as on the ball as the younger ones, but the younger ones kind of come in and go and come in and go, so they're the fly by night, obviously everyone kind of, so it's been amazing to kind of, have both the old and new kind of work together. And I think over the years, the one thing that's happened is I've gained a little maturity. And initially I used to be very, far more aggressive in a very intolerant way. And I think over the years, I don't know whether it's age, but and also it's age as well as it's, when you go through a couple of like COVID and things like that, you realize the old guys have stood by you so tall. So I think some common sense is also, a much more appreciation for the older team has kind of set in. In terms of working with siblings, it's fantastic. I am my father's, his degree, and my brothers are the coolest. They have accepted that no one can be better than Farizan, because daddy thinks Farizan is the best. And they're just the most secure, amazing, evolved human beings. And they're very chill, so they're not as crazy and hyper as I am. So, there's no clash of ambition really. And they do not want the limelight. They do not want to step forward. I wish they did. So it's a very comfortable equation where, I'm the eldest, there's an adoration, and I've always been so protective about them. So, and I'm also very respectful when it comes to, each other's space. So Shahzad manages the farm, and I can't mess around with him. And he never messes around with me and why are you doing this or why are you not doing this? So we have very clear lines and we respect that tremendously. And my dad, poor fellow, sometimes is the one stuck in the middle of, the two of us. So for example, right now with all this lockdown, again, our sales are going crazy. I need production to be ramped up. And, the only one to kind of give some grief to all my production managers would be my father. So one call saying, Dad, let's not miss this opportunity, and it's like, जो भी दीदी बोलेगी मैडम बोलेगी वो माल देना ही पड़ेगा, so I think it's a great happy equation. It's a really touch wood good, my brother wants to start agro, right? And now we're a big brand, we have B2C Connect, we have so much happening, so I'm going to encourage and support and help him, because he would need my help to kind of market and sell the products. So we're a tight family.
Great. And so thank you for sharing that. I think it almost sounds like there is a parallel between the acting career and this entrepreneurial career. I mean, is there some things that, you have the director, the script writer, the music director, the dance choreographer. So is there a similarity? Is there something that translated because of your acting journey to entrepreneurial?
So I think, as an actor also, it's all teamwork, right? And every single person, whether it's your co-star, whether it's your director, every single person, whether it's your makeup artist, whether it's whoever you work with, right? It's the team that makes you look good. And I think that's one thing that I think is so similar, both with my acting as well as, working with Zorabi, and that, teamwork is everything, right? I think it's very important to work in a very healthy, respectful atmosphere. So whether it was being an actor or, at Zorabian, and there's transparency, there is, straightforwardness, there is, you know your lines, you kind of, everything is played in a certain boundary. And I think that would be another similarity, I would think, between the two. So when I deal with my partners and they go crazy and they're like, oh, this brand is giving buy one get one free. I'm like, I'm not a buy one get one free brand, right? I'm not positioned as that. I don't have those economies of scale. So I set my boundaries, and as an actor as well, I've always kind of set my boundaries of what I could and couldn't do, and it's the same with my chicken as well. So yeah, there's a lot of similarity.
Yeah. So I guess I wonder if
is a typically Irani gali giving director. Who doesn't differentiate between a girl and a boy, who doesn't kind of, give me any lax for being like, oh, dad, I have 2 kids, nothing. He drives me hard. It's like, it's amazing.
I wonder if your dad and your directors have shared conversations about.
Directors would at least get patat by me and be like, okay, he's my father, my God, but he's a star. Touch wood.
So how is your experience as a woman entrepreneur, right, in a poultry business? And then what would your advice be to young entrepreneurs of today, especially women entrepreneurs? What is that?
So I've never I've never been treated differently, even as an actor and even as an entrepreneur, with being a woman, so I've never had to deal with the casting couch, or people kind of what I'm saying, being disrespectful or kind of just not treating me well. It's never happened, and I think it comes a lot from how you project yourself. So even with my team at Zorabian, when I walked in, of course I was this actress, and I started working with dad when I was pregnant, right, with my first child. So initially, of course, they must have said, okay, she's come to do time pass. In fact, I had a CEO of a competitive brand say, why are you doing chicken? There's no money in it. Are you wasting your time? I'm like, dude, give me some time. I'll show you I'm not wasting my time. But no, so there was, what was the question again? I got
no, as a woman entrepreneur, right? What would your advice be?
So there was no problem really with being taken seriously, but I had to earn my respect, and I think the one thing that I did was I didn't play the woman card ever. There was nothing that my brother could do or would do that I wouldn't do. So if someone came up to me and said, an operations guy says, madam, ye nahi ho sakta hai, or a logistics fellow says, you've added so many stores, we can't manage with the fleet this much, we have to increase our fleet. I have no problem getting my hands dirty and, getting right down to it. So I would be at 3:30 in the morning when we rejigged all our distribution belts, right? When we built a new cold room and they said, oh, the ante room was too small and itna nahi ho sakta hai, I was there for the first 3 days of the dispatch, but everyone was in shock because here's this prissy, whatever, girl in like jeans, rolled up, chappals, but standing there at 3:30 in the morning. And I think I've earned their respect, right? So whether it's my drivers, whether it's my helpers, everyone kind of knows, I'm not this, boss's daughter, but I'm kind of one of them. And I'm approachable. You can walk into my cabin, you can talk to me. And I think so I've had no real challenges per se. Of course, when I go to a modern retail trade meeting and I walk into the office, for the first 5 minutes, they won't take me seriously because of the actress tag. But I think 10 minutes into the conversation, they know that, she's a hardcore murgi wali and she's kind of completely sorted.
So talking about murgi, I guess I can't let you off the hook to talk about this hot space called alternative protein. So, I have an alternative protein fund. It's called Good Protein Fund. It's based in Singapore, and we invest all over the world, including India. And alternative protein, is basically alternative to meat and seafood and dairy and eggs and milk. And so I guess I have to check with you that, there's obviously a lot of conversations about animal farm and chicken farms and things like that. So what is your personal take on alternative protein, and what point in time would you serve both versions of the chicken to customers in India?
So, like I said, my brother Shahzad has turned vegan for the last 5 years. Initially, it kind of distressed me tremendously I couldn't imagine, I thought it was just like someone piercing a knife in my heart and kind of just turning it around. But I think the reality is, of course, there's a large movement towards alternative protein, plant protein being used. I've been asked very often on loads of forums whether Zorabian would go that way. We've had loads of people wanting to collaborate with us, but that's really not, a kind of a stand we've taken so far. I think my brother really is keen on kind of actually growing the vegetables and doing the organic stuff. So I think he wants to give them the real food per se. I think so. He's on that trip. So I'm going to kind of, and of course we're very keen on doing a veg line, because we're so good with our food. So I think we're going to work on that. But I don't think this is something we can ignore for too long, Jayesh. So whilst we're putting our head in the sand like an ostrich, I think at some point as a brand, we will need to kind of take a call as far as that is concerned. Yeah.
Great. Thank you and thank you for answering all my questions. I would request the audience that please input your questions into the chat so that we can take questions. Parijat, the good news for you is that all the easy questions are over because my time is up. And now here comes the really hard, difficult questions. And so over to you, Sanket.
I'm prepared, Jayesh. Thank you. It was so wonderful to talk to you. Thank you.
Of course.
Do you believe plant protein is the future? Do you believe that completely?
No choice. See, it is not a sustainable world today.
Yeah, exactly.
There are 70 billion animals that are getting killed, 1 trillion fish that are getting killed. The arable land and water, there is just no way we can continue. By 2050, the meat consumption will increase by 70%. So it's just no other way but to look at alternative protein. And now plant-based is just one, then there is cell-based, and there is fermentation. So there are 3 different technologies, and plant-based right now is winning. But over time, no choice.
So Shahzad will kind of want us to do something which is the most natural, so that's probably the way we will go. Yeah.
Look forward to that chat with your brother as well.
Thanks, Jayesh. Thank you. When you're in Bombay, we'll touch base.
Look forward. Sanket, go ahead.
Thanks, Jayesh, for handling the first stuff so well. It actually gave me time to quickly nibble on some amazing Sikh kebabs from Zorabian chicken.
I love you.
So, Parijat, so I will ask you more business ops related questions, which will probably help the whole foodpreneurial community here. So, you mentioned at the beginning your business had its shares of ups and downs. Right. So, how did you all resurrect as a business from its lows? It'll be very interesting to know that since you joined at the time when you all were at the low.
Right. So, Sanket, we were part of poultry, right? And poultry has so much of volatility, right? It sees highs, it sees lows. You get one bloody bird flu and it's just the market goes down, it crashes. So initially when, my father started, we were doing wholesale chicken to like institutionals, like large institutions. So whether it was Hypercity and, whether it was all the 5-star hotels. So all of them bought Zorabian. And then we sold a whole lot of other, whatever was balance in the live market. Now, every time something goes up and down, the paper rates go high, the paper rates go low. It was insanity. And I think we suffered 2 bird flus where I kind of said, half of the mid-size farmer, like my father, they've all got wiped out. They don't exist today. So when I came in, we had just suffered a bird flu where the chicken prices were like, some 7 rupees a kilo or some. It was bizarre. And at that point, because we had no business, we decided we got an opportunity from Reliance actually, and they wanted us to do fresh chicken like in the US for their customers in trays, cut, cleaned, and wrapped. And because our business was at half, we were in, things were really so bad, and we had this manpower and this whole facility that we had to manage. We said yes, and the only negotiation my father did was, of course, the labor charge for doing that, but Zorabian ka label chahiye, and that's how it started. And because the quality was so good, we actually went out now to the final consumer. So we were not talking to an institutional player where, we were no longer effective even on our economies of scale because larger competitors came in. Their price points were like 15, 20 rupees cheaper than us, which, with a hotel and it really does matter. So, they don't care whether your chicken goes into a butter chicken and it's, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter. But now finally, in that little Reliance pack was a Zorabian sticker where the customer knew it was Zorabian, and that's how we made the connect with the final customer, and the customers started asking for Zorabian. And that's how this whole, we kind of, got out of that slump and got into, direct contact with the customer with our brand on the product. So we have a fresh chilled chicken range, which is absolutely flawless. It's clean up, devoid of fat. It's just beautiful, tender, gorgeous chicken. We have a ready to cook range, which is kind of, so your shish kebabs will be baked. It's all meat, and it's because we're so good with our food. They're all natural flavorings, and because we're not putting corn and all of that in our products, we don't need to add the additives, and we don't need to add all the nasties in it. We have this range of marinades again, so what we've done is we've taken this great quality product, we've added convenience to it, right? And we're kind of now adding, taste and a whole lot of other things onto our basket. So we're kind of moving up, the chain and differentiating ourselves from other chicken players who kind of really, operate as a commodity.
Absolutely. So, usually we've seen that complacency seeps into legacy businesses, and it kinds of bogs the growth and quality down. So, did you see that happening in your company when you joined your business? And if yes, how did you overcome that?
So, when I joined the business, things were so bad that everybody knew, our struggles. So I think when I came in, everyone was wanting a miracle to happen, and they didn't want, Zorabian to shut shop. So and then of course the team I hired, because we had no money, were such basic people, with all kind of. So I didn't have some fancy marketing head or some sales head who came up with some crazy demands. I had basic people who I started the retail journey with, and they all came up with this clean slate. None of us knew what we were doing, but we were all kind of trying to do something big and large and impactful. And there was an energy, there was an innocence, there was a passion, there was, when you're an underdog, it's like you have that hunger, that killer instinct in you. As we saw success, I hate to say it, but there were some of our team members that an arrogance builds up, an arrogance when you talk to your consumer, an arrogance when you get payment collections, you better pay us the money or the chicken is not coming. You know what I'm saying? There's a way of doing everything without being arrogant about thinking that okay, we're the shit. So I think that was now I struggle with trying to get my teams. Not ego down, but kind of make, you build humility in the team, right? Which is so important, that to kind of tell them that, we're here where we are because of our customers. Don't mess around with them. So I think I'm facing a greater challenge now. Success kind of makes you not just complacent, but also makes you a bit arrogant. And I think, humility is so important in a team. So I think kind of reinstilling that within our team is really, really critical.
Interesting.
You take people for granted, right? You take your sales for granted. You take everything for granted. You're not looking for new business anymore. You're already, maxed out. So you're like, everything is, there's no, I've got to keep pushing them, right? So when I come up with these, the power of 5, and I have 5 things my top guys have to do for me, everything is what is not routine and not regular, to kind of, make them push the envelope even harder.
Interesting. Very interesting. So I don't know how many people in the audience know, Parizad was felicitated at the Raj Bhavan recently for continuation of service during the lockdown times. I mean, we're again in lockdown, but the earlier lockdown times.
We were the only chicken company, Sanket, for the first 15 days that supplied chicken. The only chicken company. That was the only chicken you saw was Zorabian chicken. And I cannot tell you what it built, and the kind of quality, integrity, trust is our core words, but it made us a resilient brand. Sorry, please finish your question.
I think kudos to to your being pushy, and congratulations to your entire team for actually standing by. So my question was actually with respect to your team. So I believe obviously this cannot happen without a great team. So tempted to ask you, how does your team look like? Is it the old generation who have been with your father since years, or is it the new young blood that you would have hired once you took over?
So in terms of who stood by, so COVID was a shocker, right? There was an overnight lockdown. We didn't even have, there was no prep time, there was no anything, and of course, ironically, that a lot of our female members on our team kind of had to take the hit and wanted to stay home because typical India, parents not allowing, husband not allowing, kya hoga? So my front lot kind of, which I was so showing off about, kind of collapsed first, and it's the basic one that really stood tall. Of course, I came to work day one, and my father saying you don't need to go to work, instruct kar. But I realized the importance of kind of completely front facing because everyone was scared, right? And I had a meeting with all our drivers, our helpers, our entire dispatch team of over 100 people in Bombay, and was like, listen, I'm at work, and if we all maintain protocol, we'll all be okay. So I think because they saw me at work, they believe that the less educated you are, the more fearful you are. So I think we kind of put so much communication into them. Just follow your protocols, stay hygienic, And what was amazing is that. Of course, initially I was really upset that the people who didn't show up, I felt deserted and I felt like I was really, I went through my, emotions. But, I kind of spoke to people's families, spoke to parents, spoke to spouses, and we had vehicles all across Bombay, transporting people and getting them to work. The farm, luckily, is isolated. So we have, families staying at the farm. So, everything was kind of cordoned off, the groceries, the food, everything was given to them. So that's how we could manage kind of being COVID-free at the farm. But it was a really tough, trying time, but it was fantastic. It was absolutely, if I ever write a book on Zorabian and its story, this COVID chapter is going to be epic. Like now that we're seeing lockdown again, we've been there, done that, earlier like police permission dhoondne ke liye, people was, so COVID hit us, right? And before COVID was bird flu. So when it was ridiculous, right? Because as it is, we had the onslaught of bird flu. And then COVID came in and everyone said it's because of the chicken. So I mean, on the signal before my office, where these guys know who we are, the entire police station knows who we are. My car would stop at the signal and they say, "Ha, in log ke wajah se COVID ho gaya." You know what I'm saying? So we had to fight such nonsense. It was unbelievable, but we survived because of the team. Seriously. And if you see my team and you ask me what they look like, they're all they're simple, they're basic, they're all real. So luckily for me, I recruit and go through most of my people, and I always hire for attitude and train for skill, always. So I can have a smart ass, FMCG, 15-year experience sales manager in front of me who talks nonsense, but promises me great numbers, or a nice, good guy, maybe not half as experienced, but with a good mindset and who doesn't, who's just a nice person, I would hire that. So I think the one good thing with my company and with our team members, we're all really good people. And there's that thread, that culture that you can see, and I'm blessed with that.
Wow. So how do you combat threats in your line of business? I mean, there's so many external threats like bird flu, etc. There's so many internal threats like team, vendors, customers. How do you combat these threats usually?
So Sanket, that's a great question actually. So in terms of threats like because it's livestock, we have such high biosecurity levels at our farms, at all our units, so that there's no cross contamination of any kind of virus or anything, right? So in terms of, so I can't fight what's happening outside, but I can put, we can do our best in terms of sanitation processes and, biosecurity to kind of protect our flock and how we grow our birds. But what happens in the market affects us as well. So that's something that, I can't really protect myself from. How do I deal with external threats like this whole online onslaught that we've had? We're this large company that, that kind of works through modern retail trade stores. So which would be like the big bazaars and the hyper cities and the Nature's Baskets. And we have our online partners like Big Basket, and of course there's Nature's Basket online. We're available on Amazon right now. But, we don't have our own online model, right? And I think the greatest, and that's where I kind of, slacked off, I think, right? We were so busy being number one on Nature's Basket chicken vendor, number one here, number one there, and all our general trade partners loved us. So we were so busy conquering that space that we didn't take the online aspect seriously. And ever since the lockdown, like there's a shop.zorabian that's come up, you know what I'm saying? So I've kind of now woken up to listening to my brand team and my marketing team saying, ma'am, please take this seriously, and kind of really trying to, get on track on the online space. But Sanket, we're not a delivery model, right? We have to work with our partners. So we're trying to put up a structure where, we pick up the order from the consumer, but we're going to supply it through our partner network. Because unlike the Liciouses of the world who are doing their direct supplies, we don't have the ability to direct every single customer because we're already so overwhelmed with, supplying, over 1,000 stores in Bombay every single day.
Absolutely. So, in fact, taking a note from your last line, what are the new verticals that you're now developing? So you already answered about the D2C platform. I believe you don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
Are you looking to get into the cloud kitchens?
So, my brother, my middle brother, Saurabh, has had a catering business called Sharon. He makes the most amazing Parsi food. And, everyone says, oh, I want to eat Parsi dansa. And, all like the mall guys would say, madam, ready to cook mein aap, chicken biryani kar lo, bahut acha hoga. Aap chicken dansa kar lo, which I never had the time for because we didn't have the bandwidth. We were already kind of, doing so much with the current stuff that we were doing. But because of what happened with Saurabh, with COVID, and business kind of just went finished, we were going to the final consumer. I'm like, listen, we discovered the power of Google Forms. And that's something as basic as a Google form. We started, supplying Baba food to all we were delivering to 100 societies in Bombay. The Bombay Parsi Panchayat called us up and said, please supply chicken to the Parsi bags. So in spite of all our stores and all the malls, we kind of also went on to these societies. I was directly supplying to the final consumer. And that's Baba Zest kind of, took birth. And now Saurabh, my brother, wants to do the cloud kitchen model with Baba Zest. So we have Khar, we have Hill Road, and we're opening Chembur next week. And then, of course, now you have all these delivery guys, Shadowfax, VFast, and whatever. Everyone's still struggling. Koi packet leke ghoom gaya type. That's all that crazy stuff still happens. But that's, in terms of cloud kitchen, that's really what we're going to do with Parsi food.
Very interesting. But I think you guys are like the Mercedes of chicken. So now whatever you create.
Not Mercedes, Shazas. When I was complaining about, you have to hear this. When I was complaining about, Shaz, you got with. So when you take a pre-cut chicken and you're cleaning it, we're losing a lot of money because we're removing all the fat, right? Now all of that's called small boneless, which you can sell, and which we do sell, right? But you can also, so we can't sell our sausages and salami to the institutional players because, to the hotels and all, because our prices are, someone will give them 150 rupees a kilo, ours is like at 370 rupees a kilo, right? Because it's all pure meat. So I'm like, Shaz, you could use the small boneless, in those sausages and salami, which he refuses to do, and he's like, do you understand? A factory that produces the Bugatti cannot do stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he actually sat me down and made me see this whole video about the floor room of a Bugatti. So, with the Bugatti of chicken, right? We're not even the Mercedes Benz. Like it's that, that's, I mean, if you go into our food factories, you can kind of, like eat off the bloody counters. I mean, it's literally as fantastic as that. It's crazy.
That's
yeah,
an aspirational standard to set. No, I was just making a remark that I mean, since you guys are the
Bugatti
Mercedes,
of
but now
chicken, Bugatti, he will
yeah,
vacuum.
now I would say
Yes.
since you guys are the Bugattis of the chicken, whatever you
And
launch
maybe Sutika, you could have another brand with another name and kind of, use that product as well. But he won't allow all my little crooked ways. And they're not crooked, they're just sensible business ways, but he'll never allow it. Yeah. And I can't afford to lose him,
Sure.
So, because he's vegan, right? For him, he's like, if you're gonna kind of, take a life, it better be damn good quality meat. And he makes me feel so bad, right? He'll say, how much is enough? How much? And I'm like, just shut up. I'm providing people with protein. So his funda is very clear. He's like, you know what? Come on. In terms of shelf life of product, I'm like, Shahzad, I've got a certificate for 1 year. Come on, let me do it for 1 year. He's like, Parizad, please. In India, cold chain, you don't know how people is maintained everywhere. Please, don't do that. It's not like we're going to keep producing and storing. Let it all be fresh. Let whoever's eating it have the most fresh produce there is. So yeah, I'd love to take you to my farm with Jayesh, who's vegetarian, to meet my brother.
I'm
I think
actually
he's
a
going to make use of
vegetarian
all
and
the
a
masks.
flexitarian.
He will love you, Jayesh. He will love you. I'll be thrown in I'll be thrown into the processing center. Just like he tell you, listen to him or get thrown in there, kind of
No,
really.
but just full disclosure, I am a flexitarian and a reducitarian. I'm not a vegetarian.
Oh, good. What is that? What do the other two mean? That means you eat chicken sometimes?
Yes, flexitarian means I can eat whatever I want whenever I want, but I'm reducitarian, which means I'm cutting down on meat and chicken and fish and trying to be vegetarian.
Okay. The whole world is going your way. Jayesh?
Yeah, flexitarian is actually the new shit. Huh? I mean,
Yeah,
everybody goes in. So it's that new venture investor on LinkedIn. Everybody puts flexitarian there on Instagram. It's
But
damn cool.
Jayesh, so we have our top selling sausage is something called the cheese onion sausage, right? Shahzad's made me have a cheese onion sausage made out of green peas. I mean, I cannot tell you how good it was. Right? So, I mean, it's unbelievable. So yeah, so we definitely go down that route. Sanket won't be too happy, but we will.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm also a flexitarian now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, I think my last question to you would be, apart from the audience question, is so what would you do differently if you had to, kind of start Zorabian afresh today?
I would have been much braver, because and I think because I grew from, I saw failure at such close quarters. I think a part of me is too scared to fail, right? So even today, I'm playing so safe. I have so many investors who come to talk to me. People come to my husband and tell him, like, listen, she refuses to listen. Will you please allow us to invest? And my mama at any given opportunity will say, please tell her what a gold mine she's sitting on, So I think because I've seen failure at such close quarters, I'm playing safe. So, we're growing, we're making money, touch wood with the grace of God, we're doing well, we're paying our people on time. So we're a very healthy company. We're not kind of burning money to sell chicken, right? And I don't want to go down a road sometimes which I'm not too sure of, and kind of blow everything up all over again. So I think the one thing that the baggage that I hold is my fear for failure, which I need to change. And something I wish I would do differently if I were to start all over again is I would, be a little more ambitious with my hiring in terms of, and really realize the value of kind of having smart people on your team. And I would be less of a control freak and kind of empower and delegate much more.
Very interesting. Your closing advice to the young entrepreneurs would be on building lasting businesses, customer relationships, vision, ethos.
So my closing advice to any entrepreneur, right, is I think it's very important to walk the talk and not, everyone is kind of, the world is full of humbug. That everyone is just blowing gas. Everyone is just kind of, making themselves look larger than life. And I think, it's like a bubble that will burst, right? So it's as an entrepreneur, I think it's very important to walk the talk, stay true to what you believe in, and live up to your word. Because I think, uh, when you win, when people trust you, magic happens, right? And they'll hold you through good times, through bad times, through everything. I think entrepreneurs need to be open to learning at all points of time, and to be brave, not reckless, but to be brave, with, like, your facts have to be, in place. And I think the one bit of advice would be, and Narayan Murthy kind of said that at a talk, make the opposite person, feel like 10 inches taller in your presence. So whether it is my peon who gets me coffee, or whether it's my driver or my helper, who they do my dispatch, or whether it's the CEO of a company, my effort is always to make the opposite person feel 10 inches taller, in my presence. When you make people feel good, great things happen, right? And that's something I believe in completely.
Wow. I mean,
So,
yeah, Jayesh, go ahead. You were saying
yeah,
something.
so thank you for that. And thank you, Sanket. What Parizad we're going to do is we've got zillions of questions. We don't have that much time. So what we're going to do is we'll ask alternate questions. So I'll pick one question from the audience, and then Sanket will pick one, and then we'll keep doing that till time runs out.
Right.
All right.
Sure.
And it's not rapid fire, so don't worry. Please take your time.
Yeah. You think
one
I
of the
look like a
questions-
married person?
No, I guess the time is running out. So let's try and please as many people as possible, right? And
Yes.
so one of the questions that is repeated is that what are your top 3 big lessons that you learned on your road to success?
My top 3 big lessons. I think trust is critical, because when my father was going through a down time, our soya, makkah, all of our leaders gave us credit limits that were unimaginable. Nobody would invest and kind of risk that kind of money on someone that they didn't have. Credibility is important. So I think my biggest lessons are, credibility is key, trust building is key, and teamwork is key.
Okay, thank you, Sanket.
So I think there's a question which again a lot of people have asked is around how do you see yourself competing with the D2C brands like the Deliciouses of the world, and which is ruling the e-commerce with wide range of SKUs. What would be your unique proposition compared to them?
I grow
Take
my
it
own
a little bit.
chicken. I grow my own chicken. Okay. And I'm not going to put any, I grow my own chicken. So we're a completely vertically integrated farm. We grow our own birds. We know exactly the chicken. If you eat Zorabian, we know exactly what you're eating. We know that the feed has none of the other bad stuff in it. It's all pure. It's all vegetarian. Growing your own bird gives you a competitive advantage that the others won't have. Now, I can't match them on in scale. I can't match them in cash burn. I can't match them in buy button and chicken for 500 rupees, and I cannot do all of that nonsense. But they can't match me on quality. Yeah. So I'm gonna stick to my strengths. So I may not hit their scale, but the person who buys Zorabian will only buy Zorabian, and I say that with all humility.
No, I mean, that line sums it up. I mean, you grow your own chicken, so yeah.
It's
What
factors?
The network issues at her. In fact, there is
you okay?
another
Can you hear me,
question,
Parizad?
Jayesh, which I think you may be able to take this.
Please go ahead.
So there's a question. So what's the scope of alternative protein in India, with especially about 38% Indians being vegetarian, and the remaining 62% Indians which are non-vegetarian eat meat about 1.8 times a week. So what do you see? How do you see the growth of alternative protein in India?
Yeah.
Huge.
I think,
But
yeah, I think
Jayesh
it's
should
huge.
answer that.
No, you're absolutely right, Parijat. It is huge because look, when we are only focusing on 62%, then therefore, right, the 38% who are vegetarian, they might try it, but they don't need to, right? It's just curiosity, but because it's plant-based, somebody might try it. Cell-based, no way, right? Cell-based, nobody will try. None of the vegetarians will try. So it's really limited to those 62%. But hey, that 62% is multiplied by 1.3 billion, right? And then the middle class is growing. So the upper class and the middle class, they're aspirational. So they will become reducitarians. They will become flexitarians. So instead of eating meat 7 times a week, some people are doing because it's 1.8 average, but 7 times a week, people will say, okay, you know what, I'll eat only 4 or 5 times a week. And the other 2 or 3 times, I'll eat either alternative protein or one day I will be vegetarian, right? But plant-based is vegetarian also. So there is nothing for you to compromise on that vegetarianism. So I think it's a huge thing. Now, the difference will be in the Western world, what happens is that people are using the same soys and peas and all of that stuff. But we in India have to find new things. So look at millet, right? So millet is not common elsewhere. So the whole supply chain is going to change, and India really will be at a leading end. And also a lot of contract manufacturing will happen in India. So you'll see a lot of local brands, right? Food is like that, right? I mean, Oatly. Now, Oatly is so expensive. You can't really, I mean, how many people can afford Oatly? Impossible. Beyond all of this stuff is still price parity is not there. India will come up with some products which will compete in the Indian market, and it'll taste the suit the Indian. See, taste is king and price is queen. And on both those counts, India is different on both those counts. And Parijat is nodding, so I'll let her say a little bit more.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just listening to you and I agree to everything that you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think Sanket, a huge opportunity if there are entrepreneurs who want to enter a new thing. So you've gone into blockchain, you've gone into AI, you've gone into digital mobile payment, you've done all of that stuff. And now say, what's the new thing that is both sustainable impact as well as that's got huge economics. $20 billion currently alternative protein market is going to $200 billion, 10x. And in another, by 2050, it's going to be $1 trillion worldwide. India's numbers are obviously going to grow north also. And so Parijat brother is doing exactly the right thing because he's looking out for the future of Zorabian chicken.
He's always doing the right thing.
Jayesh is just making sure when he comes to your farm, there is some veg to eat.
The best. I'm telling you, the food at my farm is the best, and it's gonna be epic. Really, I look forward to taking all of y'all there.
Look forward. So there is one question which is about the factors affecting the food industry's decline. So I guess that's the thesis. They're saying the factors affecting the food industry's decline and what measures can help to curb them.
So I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So,
when you're talking about,
he basically personally saying what factors affect the food industry's decline. What happens? I mean, why would the food industry start declining? And then what can you do to curb them? Is the food industry declining for some reason? And what
I mean, so yeah. I mean, the food business in terms of your restaurants, in terms of all of that, maybe we're seeing a huge beating with the whole COVID situation, with the lockdown situation, and all of that. So I mean, is that the question? Because
no, I think you talk about the industry at large. The industry,
no, I don't. I'm sorry, but I don't see a decline. Does anyone else see a decline?
No,
Jay? You must because you must be studying all the numbers everywhere.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, food industry. I don't know which part of it the person is talking about, but food is increasing. I mean, if there are people continue to eat meat as they're eating now, it'll go up by 70%. It's not sustainable. So I don't know where they're coming from. But I guess the general question is what measures can help to curb them? And I guess that's one question you can answer, right? Which is what can you do?
What is I think what's very important for all food entrepreneurs and anyone producing food and kind of this thing, the consumer is becoming very, very intelligent. The consumer is knowledgeable. The consumer is evolved. The consumer is very specific in what they want and they don't want. So I think if you want to stay relevant, kind of being alert to what their needs are, what their wants are, and to not kind of take them for granted is key, right? So I think it's not like the industry is going down or decreasing. It's just the consumer demands and their knowledge and their expectations are much higher. And companies that can kind of deliver what they want are the ones that will really, really thrive. I think that is. I don't think the industry will keep booming, but it's the ones that kind of keep pace with things that will actually thrive and grow.
Yeah,
I don't want
absolutely. I
that door
think,
to be redundant.
yeah, absolutely. I can see that. What basically is that if you just look at restaurants, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
have to keep reinventing. If you look at products like yours, you have to keep going at it, right? It's not like saying, hey, this is it. This is the old school and these are the supply chain and this is the same proteins, etc. So it has to keep changing, right? So whatever the supply chain is. So yeah, Sanket, we have probably room for one question before we have to hand it over to Trupti.
Yeah, I think the other questions that I see we've kind of covered in the conversation already.
Right.
So I think we can take a
Yeah,
wrap
so
on that.
maybe we can ask this last one, which is basically how do you handle extreme challenging situations?
So I'm not brave and I'm not calm. I'm a scorpion and I'm hyper and I expect the world to be perfect. And I'm a salku and I am, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to lie to you and say I'm this, so I just get, but all of that manifests into like this fierce determination of just getting it. So like if things are good, I can get a little thanda, but if things get tough and get challenging, I see the strongest side of myself, right? I am like a woman obsessed. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of extreme challenges, whilst Baman would say, my husband would say, "Oh my God, when it's going crazy, babe, just stay calm. Go undercover." I don't go undercover. I'm like, right out there, and tackle the situation head on. I don't have any gyan to give in terms of how calmly I sit and view the situation from outside, and I cannot claim to be any of that. I take the bull by its horns and deal with it.
Thank
Actually,
you for your
I love that when the water is boiling, the frog is jumping. This one will jump, 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 and get out of the pot. That's me.
fantastic, super candid. By the way, as I was doing some research on you, I was completely confused because there's a guy called Boman Irani, and then I just kept
Yeah.
looking for him. I never found him, and so please, can
No,
you?
no. I am Bhavan. There's a Bhavan Irani, the actor, who's a dear friend, and my handsome Bhavan Irani is a real estate developer who's my greatest strength and support. And he just thinks he just believes in Zorabian so much, and he really thinks I need to be fired completely and thrown out of my job so that the company can really scale to the heights it deserves to be at. Really, he keeps telling my father, "Mane MD banao, Mane MD banao." Like I will change the fortunes of this company. Your daughter plays too safe. So really, courage to take the next big step, Jayesh. I need that.
Fantastic. Well, that's all I have for now, Sanket. If you have something, otherwise we can flip it over to Trupti. But
I think it was awesome. So thank you, Parizad, so much for taking out time to speak to us. I think it was the most energetic webinar I've hosted in a while.
Thank
Please
you.
continue to inspire the community. On behalf of Thai, please stay hungry and keep growing and continue to serve your consumers the best chicken in the country, like the Bugatti to the world. And Jayesh, it was terrific to be your co-host today. We'll look forward to more such sessions with you. And over to Trupti and adios from my side.
Can I just say thank you to both Jayesh as well as Sangeet? Thank you. You kept it real, and I've enjoyed chatting with you. Seriously, thank you so much. Really,
of course, my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I
Thank you
can't
so
wait to
much.
meet you guys in person at some point.
For sure.
Perizad, I hope the invitation to visit the farm is extended to me.
100%.
I'm vegetarian, so I'll stand
100%.
outside.
100%. Don't you dare tell my brother how much I bitched about him on, on this show, on this thing.
You are going to share this tomorrow on your LinkedIn, so
Yeah, I will. He's just again complaining about me. But I would love to. I'd love to. Because what a story. I'd love to show you the farm completely.
Thank you so much, guys. It was a wonderful session. I'm sure everyone is leaving with a lot of insights. And we really look forward to hosting you again, Perizad, on the channel.
It'll be
And
a
thank
pleasure.
you, Jayesh. Thank you, Sanket. And have a wonderful day, guys. The video will be up by tomorrow. So please, in case if you guys would want to revisit, it will be available and shared on our social media. And this is the 15th session that we have done for Thai Food Network since the last year lockdown. So all the past session videos will also be emailed across to you guys. So have a look. Have a wonderful day and best of luck. That's all
Thank
I
you so
can
much.
say.
Thank
you so
you.
much. All right.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you so
See
much.
you.
Bye.
Lots of
See you
love.
guys. Okay. Bye bye.
Okay.
See you in
Bye-bye.
Mumbai, Jayesh. Bye.
Yes, look
Sanket.
forward.
See you soon. Bye,
Bye
Jyoti.
bye.
Can't
Thank
wait.
you.
Bye.
Lots of love.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jayesh. Bye.